Hello there. Welcome to this week's Facebook Live show. It's 8 o'clock here in London and we're ready to get started. Now, I say Facebook Live. I'm going to have to be fully transparent with you. I'm afraid this is a pre-recorded video this week again. Last week I was out sailing on a boat. I did do a live stream during the day, but the little official more formal video in the evening I pre-recorded, and I've had to do the same this week. I just wasn't available, unfortunately, live this evening. However, I did want to make sure that this is going out to you at 8 o'clock, same time every week, to get that consistency and to help you guys plan in your diaries. I would love for you to join me live going forwards. I will be here live, I promise, next week. So if you have any comments or questions, of course, on this week's topic, then just, pop them in the comments below the video and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as I can. And of course, as ever, do let me know any questions, any suggestions, any way you're getting stuck. You can message me here in the group on Facebook, on LinkedIn. You can email me, you can message me, and it can be completely anonymous if you'd like it to be, or, I'm happy to share your specific case in the group. But the whole idea here is that I'm answering your questions, and I'm here to help you take that one step outside your comfort zone, one step outside the 9 to 5, and ultimately to live the life and, for a lot of you, build a business that's going to bring you that freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. I also want to say welcome to the new members of the group. So for those of you who have just joined, so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for your trust in joining in the group here. Hope to see you live again in the next few weeks. Hopefully you do know me since you've joined my group, but just in case, my name's Anna Lundberg. I'm the founder of One Step Outside. And I also wanted to introduce you, I guess, officially and in person, as it were, to Terry. I messaged about her just the other day. She's our new marketing manager who's coming on, taking on more and more projects really going forwards. We're going to ease her into it because there's lots we get on with. But she'll be starting here with welcoming the new members, interacting with you guys here in Facebook, and she's also going to be taking on other projects in terms of YouTube, when we launch the group program again later in the year, the podcast. She's a fantastic portfolio career extraordinaire, I guess. So one of our kind of species, I guess I'd say. Certainly we share a lot of the same values. She's very creative. She's a graphic designer. She's a copywriter. I really trust her eye on my writing and so on. She's going to be helping with my book as well, which I'm finalising. So anyway, all this to say, she's wonderful. Really happy to have her here. And I hope you'll enjoy interacting with her. Of course, I'll still be in here. Don't worry. But I hope this is going to bring more interaction and support to you guys, as there will be two of us here and not just me. So that's a bit of the admin. I wanted to talk this week about something that's been coming up quite a bit, and I did cover it a few months ago, but it's just such a common question and concern that I wanted to touch on it again today. And it is this problem, issue, concern, whatever you want to call it, excuse perhaps, that I just don't have the time. And I can imagine it's familiar to you. It certainly is familiar to me. This idea that we have all these goals and ambitions. I mentioned my book there. I have all these things I want to do, to launch and so on. And then somehow the week has passed and nothing has changed. It's a bit like your New Year's resolutions. You have all these great ideas and then suddenly, oops, time has passed, January, February, March, and they've sort of dwindled into nothing. And obviously we don't want that, because the whole point here is that we're creating that vision, we're building those big dreams in our minds and in our vision boards and wherever they're living, and then we want to actually be taking consistent action towards those. So when we're finding ourselves, coming to the end of the week feeling, I didn't do any of the things I wanted to do, I haven't made any progress on those big priorities, it's really important to nip that in the bud right away, to bring our awareness to it and to do something about it. And I want to talk in a minute about the things we can do about it. And I think there are two areas. One is our mindset, because as much as we think we don't have time, the reality, as I'm sure you can recognise if you admit it to yourself, is that, we have to make time for these things. And it's a bit of a shift, I suppose, in perspective. It may well be that you are getting a lot done, and probably, to be honest, you are. If I know you and if you're like me, then you've actually done a huge amount of things. You should be celebrating your huge achievements. It's just that perhaps you haven't had the focus on exactly where you wanted to be, and certainly you haven't paused for a second to recognise how far you've come. So the mindset piece is very important. And then on the other hand, the really concrete tips, tools that you can use to very much create that space for the priorities. And first of all, of course, that means having the priorities in place to begin with. So that's where I want to start really. I'm going to just go through 3 little tips in this short video today. And the first one is exactly that, deciding on what it is you want to make time for. Because you may think that you're super clear on your goals, and I talk about this a lot, of course, in terms of defining what success looks like for you. But understanding what you want to do and why it's so important to you is going to be absolutely crucial to having the motivation, commitment and focus that you need to really make time for those priorities. So the first step has to be to get super clear on what it is that is your focus right now. And of course, we can have a lot of focus areas. Unfortunately, things tend to happen, sort of come in one go. So we might be working through relationship issues, wanting to lose weight and get fit, starting a new job, starting a business. All these things tend to happen at the same time. And it may be that we have to manage a lot of these things in parallel, but certainly there will be some kind of priority call, some strategic trade-offs, as we call them in marketing, because we simply can't give 10 out of 10 on all those things. The only thing that's going to happen then is that you'll burn out. So it's really important to get clear on what's important to you and where you're going to put those priorities. And you can shift that from week to week, from day to day, but certainly having that bigger picture of where you're trying to get to is going to be crucial. So I've shared this resource quite a bit, but I think it'll be really useful here. If you haven't already, you can go to onestepoutside.com/success audit. So onestepoutside.com/success audit, and I'll make sure to link that below as well. And it's an assessment really of where you are in those 5 different areas of your lives. Because we tend to get very focused on career and business and so on, but there are other things going on. So the areas are live, wellness and well-being and so on, love, so your relationships, including romance, but also friendships and family and so on. Learn, so development and growth, very important, so certainly a big value for me. Lead, and that's the career and impact, that's what we're trying to do with our business, with our work. And the final one, laugh, which is fun and spontaneity. And I was just chatting to someone the other day who said she wasn't really finding time for that play, for the spontaneity, for enjoying herself really. And I think that's incredibly important. However important our business goals, our financial goals and so on, making time for relationships, for our well-being, for having fun. Yes, you need to plan time for spontaneity, however crazy that sounds, is incredibly important. So do take a look at that audit. If you've done it before, it might be worth doing it again. We're several months now into the year, so if you did it back in January, it might be worthwhile checking in again. But really the first step is getting super clear on what your goals are in these 5 different areas perhaps, and then trying to rank maybe the top 3 at least for the next 3 months, let's say. That's quite a sort of manageable time frame. I think 90 days is a great deadline to set yourself to have that focus. And of course there will be sort of a balancing act going on, but it's really important to get that really clear in your mind. The second piece then, after you know what it is you want to make time for, is actually to track where you're spending your time now. And I've mentioned this tool in the past, but I'm a big fan. It's called Toggl, TOGGL.com, Toggl, and I'll link that as well. And you can literally, and you have to be very careful with this, you have to turn it on every time you start a new task, a project. The benefit of this is, first of all, bringing your awareness to it. So even the act of turning it on will make you surprisingly focused, because you'll stop checking Facebook and so on when you're meant to be writing on a particular project. And secondly, there's the bigger awareness that you'll get from where you're spending your time. So I had another client who found this absolutely life-changing almost, in the sense of recognising that she was only working 2 or 3 hours a day, which was actually good news, because it meant that the rate she was getting was better than she thought. She thought she was doing a lot more work for her clients than she was. And it also means that in theory, you know, you have more scope there for additional work, or at least, you know, you're able to prioritise maybe some other things in that day too. So that was really good news. It may be that you find yourself working many more hours than that, many less. They do say that we tend to do about 2 or 3 hours of productive work a day. I find that hard to believe, because I do feel like we're working a lot, but I do think that if we track the time we spend, there will be a lot of faffing about, lots of, you know, low priority things that we're doing and so on. So that's a really great tool to use to begin to track maybe at least a week. Try to do it for a week, even longer if you can. You may even find that it's a useful tool that you want to keep using. But having that awareness, it'll give you a report. You'll see how much you're spending on, you know, how much time emails maybe, or writing. Maybe you're like me, writing a book, and you find you're only spending half an hour or no time at all per week writing on that book. So tracking that time and getting that awareness, I think, is incredibly important. And then of course, if you do find that you're spending lots of time on those low priority things, that's a great thing to realise, to recognise, and then you can kill those off ideally, outsource them, ignore them altogether, and make time then for other priorities. And then the final tool, and it's a framework that I've referred to several times again, is the ideal week. And so it's really looking at your Monday to Friday, Monday to Sunday, however you want to do it. You'll block your time, how you would spend that ideal week. Now, it is an ideal week. Every week is going to be different. But in terms of how your energy is during the day and where you want to be spending your time, really thinking about what that would look like in a week. So if you want to exercise, for example, are you the kind of person who wants to exercise first thing in the morning? In which case you should be blocking that time, making sure you don't have any client calls or whatever it is, making sure you're getting up early enough to do that. If you need to, and I certainly recommend that you do have meals at certain times, blocking out, certainly for me, that helps to block out lunch and dinner. Again, it might need to shift sometimes, but having sort of the ideal framework is really helpful. And those are sort of the building blocks. But in terms of what you're going to put into those building blocks, I'd recommend that you really think about maybe 10, that's what my coach recommended to me, 10 priority actions for your week. And importantly, those should include those different areas that we talked about in number 1. So not just business. If you've got 10 priority blocks that are all business, career, work, then I'd really encourage you to rethink those. And they shouldn't be just a laundry list, a to-do list of everything you need to do. They really should be strategic priorities. So for me, and I'm trying to remember what they are off the top of my head, but some things that I do automatically, of course, is turning up to client calls, delivering work according to deadlines, emails, and so on. That does happen automatically. And the things that don't necessarily happen automatically that are very important to me are, of course, writing on the book, also writing and pitching for external articles. That's the main way people discover who I am and come to my website. Recording or going on live trainings like this. They tend to happen automatically, ideally, when I'm able to, but they need to go in there as well. The ones that aren't live certainly need some time. Recording trainings, creating content worksheets and so on for my group membership site. That's a big building block, and so on. So those are sort of the priority blocks. Those are the business ones I mentioned. I also have an exercise block, which is sort of HIIT/running/yoga, which has to go in there. I put it in pretty much every day, Monday to Friday. Mid-morning is the time that works for me. I do a bit of work in the morning, stay in my PJs or change into my gym clothes. Then I will do my exercise, and then I can shower and eat and so on. That works on some days and of course not on others. But again, having those 10 priority blocks, they can include, by the way, date night, fun family time, turning your phones off, whatever they are, but having those strategic priorities in the different areas that we identified in step 1, and then blocking your calendar with that ideal kind of week. Now, again, I've said this a few times, but your week is never going to look like your ideal week. But what I recommend there, and what I was recommending to the person I was speaking to the other day about this problem as well, and what I do myself, is I look ahead to the week that's coming up. So let's say ideally Sunday evening, Monday morning, Friday night, whenever you want to do this, look at your week ahead. Look at where those ideal week blocks are in your calendar. I do this on my Mac iCal, but whatever tool you use. Some people even use paper. And see where the client calls are, where the meetings are, where maybe there are kids' shows, football tournaments, whatever they are, see what's happening that particular week, in particular the one-off things. And then if I see, actually I have a call first thing in the morning, so that means I can't stay in my PJs because it's a video call. It means I'll have to either exercise later in the day or really early in the morning, which I don't usually do, and I then shift that around. Or I see, actually Wednesday's completely blocked. I'm in a meeting in London, running a workshop. I need to move the exercise or whatever it is to another day. So that will allow you to have that overview of the whole week, see those strategic priorities, the 10 things that have to happen every week. You've said these are the most important things to you in your life, in your work, in your career, in your business. They have to happen. And so it may not happen at the same time every day, but you need to do those 10 things. So you can, with that weekly review, you can really move those blocks around in your week. And I found that works really well. At least you can raise your awareness to the fact that, I have this big conference. I need to make sure that I've, packed my bag for this this so I can go to the gym straight after work that day. I need to get up earlier that night, go to bed earlier, earlier that morning, go to bed earlier that night, and so on. This sounds a bit complicated in detail, but it's just so important, I think, because we have to take consistent action to make progress. I think really looking at this every week, making sure you are taking those consistent actions and not letting it just slip away from you is so critical. And I may have mentioned I've got a new quote over here that I bought online, which says, discipline is remembering what you want. And so it's up to you. You can just keep going as you're going, feeling stuck, sort of having that excuse that, I don't have time, I'm just not getting round to it, I've got all these things going on, I can't possibly do this. Or you can choose to think, hang on, I do want to make time for this. I will make time. How can I make that possible? So it's shifting from I can't and but and so on to a more empowered I can and I will, and then with these techniques that I mentioned, tracking your time, looking at your calendar and so on, shifting it around. Now, you're never going to get to 100%. You can choose what you think is like an 80-85%, they often say is a good place to be. Certainly if you, if I have, let's say, 5 blocks of writing on my book per week and I only do 3 or 4 of those, I'm still making a lot of progress, and in a few weeks' time, 10 weeks' time, I will have finished that. So even if you don't get, 10 out of 10 perfect every week, you certainly will be getting more than you would have if you didn't raise your awareness to this particular area and to those strategic priorities. So I hope all that makes sense. Apologies again that I'm not here live, so I can't answer your questions in real time, but do pop your comments as I'm talking to you and let me know what you think. Let me know if you have a go at sort of putting your ideal week together. I know I've talked about that before, but I really do think it's such a powerful tool. If you are getting stuck somewhere, if there is a big priority like making progress on your business or whatever it is actually in your life and you're getting a bit stuck, let me know and let's have a look and see. We can book one of those free consultations that I do, half an hour's chat to see where you are and where you're getting stuck, or we can just have a bit back and forth on Facebook here if you'd like, whatever works for you. I just think it's so important. It's the only way you're going to shift and make progress, and taking action is the best way to create motivation, to build your confidence and create that movement forward. So it's so important. We can do all these visions and plans and so on, but unless we actually do something about it, we're going to be continuing to feel unfulfilled and stuck. So I hope that was useful. The bad news is this idea of, not having time never really goes away. There's always more we want to do. But I think having that intentionality, knowing what you want and why it's important, having your clear priority blocks and blocking that time for you is first of all going to make sure that you focus on the right priorities. And secondly, again, going back to the beginning, if you get to the end of the week, you will then have seen, I've done 8 of my 10 blocks, or actually I've done 10 out of 10 this week. I've made 3, chapters of my book or whatever it is. 3 sounds a lot for a week, but maybe you've done that, so congratulations if so. But that will really let you, when you review your upcoming week, also review your past week and really celebrate, recognise your achievements. And I think that will take a lot of the stress away. You'll realise you're doing more than you think. And if you notice that you're not where you want to be, you're not, taking the steps where you want to be taking the steps, you can nip that in the bud right away, identify those areas where you're not making the progress you want to, and start taking steps, rather than letting weeks and months pass and then being nowhere better off than you were before. So again, hope that was helpful. Do give me your comments below, message me, do whatever it takes. I'd love to help you to get unstuck and to find the time. Do check out the resources that I mentioned there as well. And please join me next week. I will be here live 8 o'clock Wednesday evening UK time, and I'd love to be answering your questions live here, having a bit more of an interactive discussion, and I really look forward to seeing you then. I'll be calling in from Stockholm. I'm going to Sweden for a couple of weeks. I'll be working the whole time, so it's not a holiday, but I'm really excited. I haven't been there for quite some time, so really thrilled to be going there, and I look forward to speaking to you from there then. Bye for now, and have a fantastic week and weekend when the time comes.